28 people dead. The first call came in after 9:30 this morning, and then all hell broke loose in the beautiful town of Newtown.
Breaking news this morning coming out of Colorado. The town of Aurora, Colorado, which is about 12 miles to the east of Denver, is a scene of a shooting this morning.
Good evening, everyone. The reaction of so many people today was, oh no, not again. Another high school, Columbine High in Littleton, Colorado, this time on the edge of Denver.
The attitudes surrounding gun laws are nowhere near what they used to be. When the Second Amendment was created, it was envisioned as being the best way to create a well-regulated militia.
First, let me read you what the Second Amendment says. It says, a well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Because back then they had militias, and they didn't want the United States government to take over all of the militias that they had. The point was militias.
There are far fewer personal liberties as the states were required to keep track of who had guns and had the right to inspect them in private homes. The history behind this goes all the way back to the first gun back in the 15th century.
The first gun was considered to be the cannon, and many European countries promptly armed their navy's ships with cannons after its invention. Personal guns, however, grew popular around the same time that America began to be colonized. Settlers brought guns over to the New World for a variety of purposes, such as hunting, protection, and to show techno-superiority. It wasn't until the French and Indian War, and then the colonial uprising and the Revolutionary War, that guns were considered a necessity. The Revolutionary War showed the Founding Fathers in the creation of the new country was that there was a large benefit of having a trained and armed population.
The NRA, that is the largest gun lobbyist in America today, was formed in 1871 to teach Americans better marksmanship, but has widely evolved from there. The first piece of gun legislation was passed in 1934 by President Roosevelt to combat the rise of gang violence with the use of Tommy guns.
Why wouldn't we want to make it more difficult for a dangerous person to get his or her hand on a gun? Why wouldn't we want to close the loophole that allows as many as 40% of all gun purchases to take place without a background check? Why wouldn't we do that? Right now, 90% of Americans, 90%, support background checks that will keep criminals and people who have been found to be a danger to themselves or others from buying a gun.